Welcome back to another episode of the Sunday Stache. Today, I want to talk about just this past week's Champions League matches, as well as the ones that are going to be coming up this coming week. I think this is the round of 16 currently. Should be a good time. This past week was a really good set of matchups, and I think this coming week is another really good set of matchups. Moving forward from here, I'm going to start trying to cut down the number of topics that I bring up and talk about. I just feel like the episodes are starting to get a little bit on the longer end, and it's a lot more work and effort and everything like that. From me having to do research and make sure that I'm not saying things that are grossly inaccurate. It's tough with the news cycle here in the United States because everybody is got their own thing that they want to say, and it's really hard to determine what the truth is sometimes. So I try to listen to both left-leaning and right-leaning news cycles, but sometimes it does become quite difficult to discern the difference between someone who is giving their opinion and someone who's giving their truth, or the truth, I should say, and everything. So I'm going to cut down on the number of topics that I bring up and everything. So that's what I'm going to be doing moving forward. So anyway, today, the only thing I'm going to be talking about is this past week's Champions League matches, next week's Champions League matches, and then actually, because I was on this topic, I wanted to talk about the United States' ability to compete on an international level. I'm going to go ahead and get into it. The first match that I would like to talk about is Juventus and Porto. So coming into this, after the first match, it was a home game for Porto, technically, and even though there are no fans in the stands, so it's kind of weird. So it doesn't really seem like there's a home field advantage or anything like that, but you are playing at home. Porto coming in, they won the first game 2-1, so Juventus actually kind of had a leg up. All they needed to do was score one goal to tie, and it would have been an away goal. The way things work in soccer is, or football I should say, the way things work is if you score away goals are worth more. That's essentially how they break tiebreakers. Now, if both teams scores one away goal, then what happens is they move on to extra time. If they're still tied after extra time, then typically you end up moving into penalties. So in this particular match, coming in, obviously Porto had a lead of 2-1, and basically what ended up happening was Porto scored one goal in regular time, and Juventus scored 2 goals in regular time, which meant that it was 3-3, and they carried that into extra time. Now, 3-3, both teams had one away goal at the time. Then what ended up happening was Porto ends up scoring another away goal, which meant that Juventus had to score 2 goals. Now, he ended up scoring at the 115th minute, so it didn't really give Juventus a lot of time to really kind of try to fight back. They ended up scoring a goal in the 117th minute, but the game ended not too long after that, and they didn't really have too much of an opportunity to fight back from that. So all in all, it turned out to end tied, technically, on aggregate. But because Porto ended up scoring 2 goals away and 2 goals at home, and Juventus only scored 1 goal away and 3 goals at home, Porto is the team that moves forward. That's pretty much standard throughout the Champions League. I shouldn't say pretty much, it is standard throughout the Champions League. So it's not anything new, and all the players, they know this stuff, they know the rules, they know how this stuff works. Away goals are worth more, it's just the way that it is. But anyway, it was actually a really good match to watch, and doing that math in your head when you start seeing goals and stuff being scored, doing the math in your head of what happens and everything is actually pretty cool to do. So Juventus, Porto, I don't think they really stand all that much of a chance to move much further. It depends on the draw. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't really see Porto moving much further than this next round. I didn't think that they were going to beat Juventus here, so I'm quite surprised. So maybe Porto is a better team than I give them credit for. The next match is Borussia Dortmund and Sevilla. I usually personally watch Spanish soccer on a regular basis, so I've been seeing that Sevilla, they've been playing pretty well. I think they're in the top 4 right now in La Liga. And Borussia Dortmund, I'm not exactly sure where they fit in the Bundesliga, but they definitely have some skill. But personally, this was not much of a surprise. Dortmund came into the match ahead, so Sevilla had a hill to climb. All in all, it turned out that Dortmund ended up winning 5-4 on aggregate, and it's just what it is. So Dortmund's going to move forward. They got a lot of talent, a lot of skill. So we'll see what happens there, especially with Haaland. The kid basically scores a goal every single game. So exciting to watch. Next is Barcelona and PSG. This match, they tied this particular one, the second leg. They actually tied 1-1, and it turns out that they ended up losing 5-1 or 5-2 on aggregate. So a lot of people were actually looking at this and thinking maybe this would be a repeat of what Barcelona had done to PSG a few years ago. So back in the 2016-2017 Champions League round of 16, PSG went up with a 4-goal lead in the first match, and then Barcelona ended up winning the second match 6-1 to finish 6-5 on aggregate, and actually knocked PSG out. That's actually a pretty insane match to watch if anybody has access to the full match, or really if you just search Barcelona versus PSG 6-1, it'll pull up a quick 5 to 10 minute video that you can watch, and it's actually pretty crazy to see what happened there. So in that match, Barcelona had actually scored twice in extra time. So everybody was wondering if Lightning was going to strike twice again to the same two teams, but it ended up not happening, and PSG ended up moving forward in this one. So I guess Barcelona and Sevilla both getting knocked out, it doesn't really make Spanish soccer look all that strong, even though Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid are still in all of this. Personally, I'll also put my opinion out here when it comes to PSG. I still don't really think that PSG will win it all. I know they went to the final last year, but I just don't think that they're as strong of a team as many people think they are. I know that they have some talent, but I just don't think that they are overall a really, really strong team. They're coming out of the French league, which personally I don't really think is all that strong. That's my opinion, just an objective view. So I could be wrong. I don't know. So the next match, we've got Liverpool and Leipzig. Liverpool won this match and moves on with a 4-0 aggregate score. Really, what is there to be said about Liverpool? They've been playing like trash recently, and they just so happen to scrape together enough of a team, I guess enough cohesiveness or something, whatever it was that they did to win. So, yeah, congrats to Liverpool on not completely ruining the rest of their season. This is the only thing that they have left that matters. We all know that they don't stand a chance at defending their title. They are currently almost 30 points back and currently in 8th place in the English Premier League. So they got knocked out of the English Football Cup by Arsenal on penalties. I think that ended up either tied 1-1 or I think actually it was 0-0. And it ended up going to penalties, and Arsenal ended up beating them. I think it was 5-4 on penalties. So obviously, Champions League is all that Liverpool has left. Just focus on not falling too far in the league as well. I guess the league table, maybe they'll end up being able to do some stuff. They're not too far down. They're far down, but they're not too far out of it. So they could actually fight their way back when it comes to being maybe that 4th spot for the Champions League or something like that. Or they could end up getting a spot in the Europa League. That's also an opportunity for them as well. If I were Klopp, I would be focusing everything on Champions League and, kind of doing what they can in regular league play. They still have strong players. There's not much difference between Liverpool from last year and Liverpool from this year. Maybe some people have changed, but they still have the same goalie. As long as he doesn't go out there and do anything stupid like he did a couple of weeks ago, where he's kind of playing around in the back or something and then he gets scored on. They still have Salah. They still have Sadio Mane. They're still good players. I think Firmino is still there. They still have a good team. They just have to put it together. There's that. As we move forward, there are some matches coming up this week. We have Real Madrid and Atalanta. Coming in, Real Madrid have a 1-0 lead, and with that being an away goal, I really think that Atalanta is going to have a hard time doing anything. Just what it is. Real Madrid is a good team. They are strong. I think they're much stronger than what Atalanta is, but I guess we'll see what happens when this coming week with everything there. I am kind of torn on Real Madrid because they do have skill. I don't know if they're going to end up moving forward. Karim Benzema, in my opinion, is a very underrated player. He is my opinion. This is just watching him play recently. I think he's done a pretty decent job in filling the shoes of Ronaldo. That's hard shoes to fill, but being that guy up in the front, becoming the guy that's in the box, and he just kind of seems to find himself in the right place at the right time a lot. I don't think that they're going to end up winning it, but they do have the experience of being here, and a large portion of their team has the experience of playing in these big matches. It's possible that Real Madrid, and they also have the same manager, Zinedine Zidane, that they had when they won their Champions Leagues a couple of years ago. They don't have that X factor in Ronaldo, but I do think that Karim Benzema is a very good player and has played very well over the past few seasons in filling that position. So I think Real Madrid will move forward. I'm split on whether or not they stand a chance at moving past that. We'll see how the draw goes and see who they're going to be playing in the next round if they end up moving forward. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. I just think it's going to happen. Next, we've got Atletico Madrid and Chelsea. So coming in, Chelsea have a 1-goal lead on aggregate. It was just 1-0 in the last one. This is going to be a good match, in my opinion, since both teams have been playing really well. Chelsea's on a string of clean sheets here recently, ever since they picked up the former PSG manager, Thomas Tuchel. So they've been doing really well, playing really well. The goalie that they had, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's a Spanish goalie, Arrizabalaga or something like that. From what I've seen, I don't think he's been playing all that much recently, so they have a new goalie back there. And they've been playing really well, a couple of clean sheets. So we'll see what happens with that. That could mean that Chelsea has the ability to move forward and go pretty far in this. They have some. Atletico Madrid, they have some good forwards when it comes to João Felix, Luis Suarez, and realistically, arguably one of the best goalkeepers in the world right now with Jan Oblak. They have skill. They just need to execute. By the way, the goal that Chelsea had actually scored was this wild overhead kick by Giroud, and more of a right place, right time kind of situation. It's just not something that normally happens, and it's not kind of wild, and that's probably the reason that it was something that got past Jan Oblak. With all of that, Chelsea has the one away goal right now. So if they can manage to hold Atletico Madrid to 1 goal and maybe score one more, obviously they would end up winning. But it's going to be really tough, because if they allow Atletico Madrid to score any more than just 1, then they're going to end up having a really hard time moving forward from there. I think that Chelsea is going to win, mainly because they've been playing well and they just have to keep Atletico Madrid from scoring. It's going to be hard, but we'll see what happens. Next, Bayern Munich and Lazio. And no offense to Lazio here, I think that Bayern Munich is, if not the strongest in the tournament, they are the second strongest in the tournament, and it's just the way that it goes. It's going to be hard to come back from a 3-goal deficit since Bayern Munich won the first match 4-1, and those all four of those goals are away goals. It's not unheard of. As we discussed earlier, Barcelona did it to PSG, so it's not unheard of, but Barcelona and PSG are two large teams, not Bayern Munich and Lazio. It can happen, but Lazio has their work cut out for them. And then the last match of this coming week is Manchester City and Mönchengladbach, I think, MCG. That's how it's written on the ticker. Kind of the same as Bayern Munich. I would say Man City is arguably one of the strongest, if not the strong. They're the strongest or the second strongest. I actually would put Bayern Munich first, personally, and Man City second. In this tournament, out of all those, and honestly, I'd probably put Bayern Munich first in all of Europe and Man City second in all of Europe. That's my opinion. It's what it is. They are coming in with a 2-goal lead, and both of them are away goals, so it's going to be a tough time for MCG to take them down. And I don't really see the team that is currently 10th in the German league taking down the number 1 team in the Premier League. So that's my opinion. It's I guess they're not playing as well as they were last year, so just what it is. So far, I have actually enjoyed watching this year's Champions League matches. When it comes from the group stage all the way to where we're at right now, it's a really good competition. It will only continue to get better and more competitive. Currently, as I've mentioned before, I'm taking Bayern Munich to win the whole thing again this year. I know that's a little bit of a little cheap since it's easy to select the team that won it last year, even though it was a close 1-0 last year when they played PSG. But remember, it wasn't all that long ago that Bayern Munich, which was also last year, put up 8 goals on Barcelona. It's a bit painful to watch when that kind of stuff happens, but it's just what it is. And then, here recently, Bayern Munich actually played Borussia Dortmund. And, after watching that match, I also know that Bayern Munich has the ability to come back against a good team because they went down 2 goals early to Dortmund in their league play and ended up coming back, I think, and they ended up tying Dortmund to finalize that game. So they have the ability to score early. They have the ability to score late. They're just a strong, good, well-rounded team altogether. It's just what it is. They are top of the league with a 5-point lead, and currently they have a goal differential of plus 39. So that's Bayern Munich. So they have no issue scoring goals, even though, as I was talking about Dortmund, even though Haaland seems to be able to score from just about anywhere in pretty much any match, and he has a lot of talent. If he can get some people around him, I think Dortmund will do well. As of right now, when it comes to the German league, I think Bayern Munich tops everything over there. Then I have some other notes here. Manchester City, I think they're likely to go far in this tournament. They are currently in the lead of the English league, and they have a commanding 17-point lead and a goal differential of plus 43. So that's pretty good for them. All in all, I am curious to see how the German national team does in the World Cup coming up here in 2022, since they have so many teams that are so strong. There's a lot of players in the German league of German players that are very strong. And even though when it comes to Bayern Munich's top scorer, Robert Lewandowski, he plays for the Polish national team, and Dortmund's wonder kid, Haaland plays for the Netherlands national team. So they're going to lose those 2 guys, but they still have some pretty strong talent. They will have to find a strong striker up forward. They have some good midfielders. They have a very good goalie, some good defenders. So they have some time to prep all of this year, and then basically the rest of the year. I'm assuming that they're going to end up making the qualifications and everything like that if they haven't already, and we'll see what happens. They showed up pretty poor in this past World Cup, and that allowed France to basically run away with it. That allowed Mbappe to do essentially anything he wanted to do, scoring goals left and right. That kid's very, very, very good. So the French team, they got a lot of really good French players. It just seems as though a lot of those French players either aren't playing maybe in France for the French teams or something. That's why some other reasons why I don't really feel as though the French team is all that strong. Or the French league, I mean, not the French team. Obviously, they won the World Cup. So anyway, since I'm talking about the World Cup, and I personally live in the U.S., I wanted to, I wish that the U.S. Would focus a little bit more on the sport. That way, we have something a little bit more to do, in the world. Maybe we could bring some of these talents here. So anyway, we have, in the U.S., we have some of the most amazing athletes. But since, soccer is something that doesn't really allow somebody to become a multi-millionaire, it's not something that people really focus on. The sports that we focus on is American football, baseball, basketball. Obviously, we have hockey, in true American style. If you can't beat them, create your own sport. Call it the same name as the sport that you did, and then boast about how you're the best at it. I truly believe that if the athletes found that soccer was a sport that could pay them, and they would earn somewhere in the range of $10-20 million in a deal, that we would end up having one of the best teams out there. It's going to take some time, but it's just we have to focus on it. The facilities that we have and the resources that we have in the U.S. Would have to take the time to develop and everything like that. We would probably be able to develop some absolutely ridiculous athletes. We already do. When you look at the world stage when it comes to the Summer Olympics, the Winter Olympics, usually the United States runs away with gold medals or just medal count in general. So given time, that monetary investment, I do actually truly believe that we could win a World Cup. It just might take reducing the focus on all these other sports or increasing the focus on soccer. When you look at the revenue produced by the leagues in each one of these, here, like monetary wise, I'll go over those, and it's actually pretty crazy the amount of money that is generated by some of these sports. For some reason, Wikipedia was using euros, so I don't know why they did that. So the NFL is number one when it comes to revenue producing sports. This is a worldwide list. So the NFL, National Football League, produces $11.4 billion in revenue each year. Then second is MLB, Major League Baseball. They produce $9.7 billion revenue. That's euros still. National Basketball Association, NBA, they produce $7.7 billion in revenue. Now, I think some of that may have to do with China and their love of basketball. And I do know that basketball is becoming more and more popular in Europe, but it's not anywhere close to that of what happens in the United States. Fourth, we have the first foreign league producing 6.7 billion euros, and that is the Indian Premier League, which I think that's actually cricket. And then now the first actual soccer league or football league is fifth on the list, with the English Premier League at $6 billion generated. Then followed by the National Hockey League, the NHL, here in the U.S., with $4.5 billion. La Liga, that's the Spanish soccer league, that is $3.4 billion. Bundesliga, which is the German league, $3.3. Then we have the UEFA Champions League, which is just this particular tournament, generates $2.8 billion in revenue each year. Which it obviously won't this year because there's no fans or none of these leagues are going to produce this amount of revenue this year. Most of these numbers are actually from 2019, I think, the season before 2020, because obviously everybody kind of stopped doing everything last year and everything was shut down. So 2020 numbers are going to be sad compared to all of this. So anyway, we're leaving off on Champions League. So within 10th on the list, we have Serie A, which is the Italian league, which is $2.5 billion. 11th is Formula One Racing, and they generate $2 billion in revenue. 12th is Ligue 1, which is the French league. That's $1.9 billion in revenue. 13th is the Brazilian league, which is they're producing $1.3 billion. Then we have the Japanese Baseball League at $1.1 billion, Australian Football League, $960 million, in which actually this was pretty interesting because it's like Australian rules football or footy or something like that. It's a different sport. I think it's only played in Australia. It actually looked pretty interesting, but I've never watched it, but also it is very, very popular down in Australia. 16th Chinese Super League, which is their soccer league over in China. That is 945 million euros. Then we have 17th is the English Championship League, which is England's second tier league, generates 885 million. 18th is Major League Soccer at 860 million. Surprisingly, the MLS is actually above Liga MX, which Liga MX is the Mexican soccer league. So 18th, that's where Major League Soccer is. That's the amount of revenue that is produced. I've been to some games. They're actually a lot of fun to go to, but just not a lot of Americans want to watch it, and it's just what it is. So the NFL is over 10 times larger than the MLS. The NFL, the MLB, and NBA combine for a total of 28.8 billion euros in revenue each year. And that equals about $34 billion. I mentioned all of these other leagues that are above the MLS to show how much money there is in all of these sports. Obviously, there is an absolute ton of money here in the United States. We have the top 3 leagues, and the top 3 leagues probably surpass all of the monetary value of every single league below them. I didn't do the math, but I'm guessing at 28 billion, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. So I mention all of these to show that there's a lot of growth that there is, and to show that how much money there is out there for these sports. So I don't think that it will grow all that much here in the U.S., like the MLS. I don't think it'll grow all that much in the U.S., mainly due to the fact that the U.S. can't really compete with all of the foreign countries on an actual world level. I think that we do an all right job when we're playing against countries here in this particular hemisphere, but when it comes to operating on a world stage, we just don't have the same amount of the same amount of capability to compete, at least on the men's side right now. The women's side is doing very, very well. Obviously, they won this past World Cup. So if people saw that there was money to be made in this, I think that we would actually probably have a lot more athletes going over and doing that. So the last thing I want to talk about here is the average salary of players when based on their sports. So all you have to do is kind of Google. You just search average salary by sport. I got a couple of lists here. So I'll do number 1. The highest average salary of a player in sports is the NBA actually. This is $4.9 million. That's average. Obviously, there are some people that are making an absolute ton of money when it comes to the sports and stuff. So comes to basketball, LeBron James, he makes a ton. So then second is Major League Baseball at $3.8 million. Third is the NHL at $2.5 million. Then fourth, we have American football, which is the NFL at $2 million. And then fifth, you have English Premier League, which is $1.6 million. Obviously, as you can see, top 4 sports are all located in the United States: basketball, baseball, hockey, and football. The first foreign league is 5th. So the whole reason that I mention this is because obviously the MLS is not even on here. The average MLS salary is $410,000. So I'll post the links for these things in the description. No one sees the benefit. No one's going to see the benefit. When you're seeing somebody sign a 250, or what is it? Fernando Tatis Jr. just signed, I think it was a 14-year, $350 million deal with the San Diego Padres. When you see something like that, why are you going to even try to play soccer? Which is also the other reason why all the United States' best players tend to not stay in the United States. Obviously, we have Christian Pulisic. He plays for Chelsea currently. Timothy Weah, I think he was playing for PSG. I'm not 100% sure where he is. So we have some decent players, but they're not going to stay in the United States. You're not going to make money. It's just something to keep in mind when we're talking about this, and we're looking at the way that sports and everything like that and stuff go. I think the money is probably the main reason why the United States isn't going to be a competitor on a world scale. If the money comes, then people are going to end up doing it. Parents aren't going to make their kids go play soccer when they realize that the monetary value of soccer is just not there. At least in the U.S., it's not. And then no parent is going to end up telling their kid to go play soccer if that means that their kid has to then go and move to Germany to play professionally and to earn any money, or if it means they're going to have to move to Spain or Italy or France. It's still a completely different time zone. It's across the ocean. They're just not going to want it to happen. Which is another reason why you see, when it comes to Liga MX, you see a lot of Mexican players or players from South America. They like to come up to the United States and play here because you can make more money here than you can down there. They just don't end up, they want to be in the same time zone. They want to be closer. The only people like somebody like Messi, Di Maria, Luis Suarez, those guys, they moved away from their home countries to go play, but that's where the money is. Obviously, I'm not going to necessarily say that Messi's the best player in the world. Arguably one of the best players in the world. He's making, I think he is the highest paid athlete in the world currently. He's not, he's like top 5. He's somewhere up there with Ronaldo and with LeBron. The money, it's just what it is. There's no money in the United States when it comes to soccer. All the money is overseas, and that's just what it is. They're going to want to go play in Europe. They have the tournaments. They have everything. They have the ability to train, the environment. They have everything. So that's just the way that it is, and that's why I personally think if we throw money at the MLS and we did something like, maybe if we had made it a little more fun when it comes to promotion relegation or something like that, the way they do things overseas, it might actually end up being a pretty interesting sport in the United States. But currently, the way that it sits, without people throwing money at it, I don't think it's going to end up growing. I think it is growing. It's growing in popularity, but it's just not there quite yet. We'll see what happens over the next 5 to 10, maybe 20, 30 years. See if the United States decides we're going to want to start competing in soccer. Maybe we'll convince the rest of the world to start calling it soccer. Probably not. So anyway, that's all I have for today. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe.